Hi everyone, this is Terry from homeschoolgardens.com. Today I want to show you how to remove worms from finished castings. This is my Worm Factory 360. I just harvested the bottom tray 3 days ago. And normally I don't have a problem with worms migrating up the tray because I leave my trays set for longer than many people do. So that way the cocoons have time to hatch and the babies have time to migrate up. And it just makes less work for me in the end when I harvest. However, this time it didn't work out like that. So I had quite a few worms in what I harvested a few days ago, and I left an avocado in there, and the worms will move over to the food source, and it'll be easier to grab them and take them out of the finished compost. So let's see what we have underneath this avocado. And look at all those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those and I'm just going to put them in a separate tray. So let's move this up here. So they're all kind of congregated over here, and it makes it easier to grab them. And so instead of sifting through a whole big tub of castings, you're only sifting through just a little bit. Some people, when they harvest, they actually leave a food source in their worm bin so that as worms hatch, the babies can migrate over to that food source. Back when I had a lot of worms in the bottom tray, I would do that for about a month. I'd leave the castings. I wouldn't plan on using them for about a month. And I would take them and put a food source in them for all the cocoons and the baby worms. So I want to show you this. This is the avocado I put in there. All those little red dots, those are mites. Mites are normal to have in a worm bin. They are decomposers as well. They'll eat the food as well. And they're not really, they don't do anything to your worms. They don't harm them. The only harm that can come from them is if they outcompete the worms for a food source. You'll usually find mites if your bin is too wet and has too much food in it. So I did have that problem. I got a little overzealous with my feeding, and it made my bin way too wet, and I had a leachate problem, which is normally not the case for me. And so I do have quite a few mites, and this was in finished compost that hasn't had food in it for, or hasn't been fed for several months. So the worms have been processing it, and now as you see, I have lots of mites in there. So what I can do with this, I can just rinse it off and put it back in the bin, and then I'll check back in a couple more days and maybe there'll be some more worms in there, and I'll just keep doing that every few days until there's not any worms left that I find. And then I can sift through it some more if I want, or I can just use it in the garden. So there you go. So that is how you can get worms out of finished castings using the migration method. Thanks for watching.